Welcome, everybody, to Late Night with Batman. The More You Nerd presents a show about Batman, starring Miles,
Hello!
Patrick,
Pray to me.
and me, Drew, as your host, as we take you through different facets of the Batman universe. Comics, video games, movies, TV shows. We're going to talk about as much of it as we can, as often as we can, but more likely about once a month. And boy, do we have a month that has happened in the month of March.
Yeah, it's been a crazy month as far as Batman stuff goes.
We've got video game news, we've got TV show news, we've got all sorts of crazy Batman news. So let's get started in Bat News.
Well, I think we should start off with the most recent issue of Scott Snyder's Batman. Batman, I think it was 29.
Batman 29, the final issue of the Dark City arc, where Batman goes up against Dr. Death on that crazy blimp as he tries to.
The penultimate, or I guess not the penultimate issue, but this issue was interesting just because there were certain parts of it that I really liked, and then other parts of it that I thought were not superfluous, but it felt like a lot was going on to serve two major scenes, and that was kind of it.
Well, and keep in mind, this issue was supposed to be a lot shorter, but they added that extra month to give about 10 more pages to the issue. I thought the art was fantastic. I thought
absolutely, it was fantastic.
One big call out to a very famous moment from a previous Bat work, which was cool to see Greg Capullo's take on it. I thought it's very interesting to see. Well, spoiler warning, a failure of Batman in his early days and what sort of effect that has. And I'm really, really excited to see, I forget the name of the third arc now. Is it Savage
Secret City?
Secret City or Savage City?
Savage City, yes.
Okay. Can't wait to see that when it starts next month. It's going to be great. I'm loving every minute of this.
Yeah, and that's one thing that you brought up that I really appreciate about Snyder's first year of Batman is the fact that we do see him making mistakes. Because while we all know Batman as the kind of supreme being that he is, I do love seeing him kind of grasp at that, like really trying to become this character. Mentally, he thinks he's already there, and seeing him kind of falter and become the legend that he ends up being has been really rewarding for me as a reader.
I agree. I mean, he's not quite the detective that you think he's going to be. He's got the martial arts training. He's basically Batman at the beginning of Batman Begins. He's a smart guy. He's been a detective. He's done. We know that he did the thing to try to prove that the Court of Owls were responsible for killing his parents, but he couldn't find anything. But right now he's the young hothead returning home with all of this experience of how to fight crime, but not really knowing how to fight crime.
And you touched on something that I think is very important to this run is the fact that he's kind of a hothead. He's all about vengeance and not justice yet. I think his heart's in the right place, but his head's not. And I think that's one thing that Snyder's really kind of pushing is to really change the course of action that this person's taking. It's almost like the difference between Batman and the Punisher.
Yeah.
Because I think that to become this encompassing symbol for justice that Batman ends up being, he has to put his own vendettas behind him, and I feel like he's such on this personal crusade that he doesn't understand what he's doing to himself and this city, and so I feel like he has the right ideals, but doesn't have the right idea quite yet.
Yeah, I'm also really enjoying the way that Gordon he's Lieutenant Gordon at this point, is being portrayed in this book. And it really, you see there, the grudge that Batman has against him at first because of some stuff that happened in their past, but then the sort of begrudging respect that they gain, and I can only see that transitioning into a real, actual friendship, real Batman Commissioner Gordon relationship that we're going to see over the course of the next several issues in the Savage City storyline, which I think is that 6 issues left.
I know. I think it's supposed to end in 31, so it's I think supposed to be somewhat short. Maybe 32. Like I know it's because Zero Year is only 11 issues, and we've already had 9, I think.
Maybe I'm thinking of 6 issues from the beginning of the year, because if it's 3 more issues, that would put it around June. So
yeah. But no, I absolutely agree. And you can kind of see how Gordon's already starting to trust him a little bit. And it's still my favorite scene in this story is the boat ride the two of them have, and Gordon like talking about that previous situation that young Bruce had completely misconstrued.
A lot of people harping on the fact that James Gordon completely blind without his glasses. I really hope that they're like he's just been lying about his prescription the entire time. I enjoyed that bit in year 1, where he's like, I don't have my glasses, but I want to thank you, and same thing happened here.
And also was the first Batman completely disappearing on Gordon. Gordon turns around and he's gone.
And the glasses are in his
shirt pocket.
Yeah, I thought it was a great scene. I did love the scene. They've been doing a lot of Batman jumping or his shadow being in the lightning a lot in this story.
Yeah, it's iconic though. I mean, we know that Scott Snyder is a big Nightfall fan, not Nightfall fan.
Dark Knight Returns.
Dark Knight Returns fan. We know that I'm sure Capullo is a big Dark Knight Returns fan. But it's also really cool to see Capullo's take on that image, because I love Capullo's art. I can't say that he was always my favorite Batman artist, just because I was so used to really the Grayson Batman through a lot of Morrison's run. But
yeah,
Capullo, he knocks it out of the park every issue. He's just so good.
And I think that Batman is a gift for his career, but only because for his entire run on Spawn, he was basically having to use McFarlane's style. And
really be in McFarlane's shadow, honestly.
Right, and only because of that book. But here, because a lot of people had a lot of trepidation of Capullo being on this book, and then you see a completely different style from him, and I have loved it since issue 1.
Oh yeah, it's
great. It is really, really great.
Yeah, I remember thinking back when they announced the New 52 stuff. I was not, I don't think I had read anything by Snyder at that point, but just Capullo being on that, I was actually pretty excited about that team up.
Well, I had read Black Mirror and Gates of Gotham, both of which I really enjoyed. So I wasn't intimate with Snyder, because I know American Vampire had kind of was starting to take off, I think, around that time, but I wasn't that familiar with him otherwise.
It had already been around in 2009, 2010, American Vampire.
Yeah, so yeah. I knew that he was a horror voice. I'm like, well, that's cool, a horror writer doing Batman. I love that idea. Capullo, I was not sold on at first, just because I was like, the Spawn guy? Really? I mean,
Snyder wasn't sold on him either at first. But.
His art's never been terrible at all, but I was like, it's just McFarlane ripoff. Is that what we're going to see? And and then he came in doing stuff that was completely different, and I loved it. And especially, was it issue 5 or 6 of Batman, where you have the Batman stuck in the labyrinth.
Oh, the labyrinth in the Court of Owls.
It's one of my favorite Bat issues, I think, like single issues of all time. And it's what that comic should be, which is, a realistic, mind-trippy kind of noir, like him trying to gain his sanity and struggle and fight against, figure out who's doing this and why. There's a lot of mystery, a lot of action.
And knowing not to drink the water, but having to drink the water, so he only drinks so much of it. The character's written well. Obviously, and the eyes of Batman through the cowl in that in that issue are so good.
What I also love about it is, and Snyder said this when he was talking about doing the Court of Owls, he's like, I want you to believe that Batman can possibly lose. He's like, for 10 years, there's been this idea that Batman always wins, and I want people to believe that maybe not. And he has done an excellent job of that, because every story I've been like, oh man, is he going to make it out of this? Or at least is the Bat family going to make it out of this?
Patrick is holding up a copy of one of the. Was that issue 5?
This is 6. I think this is where we got the upside down craziness.
The upside down craziness is also really cool, but
actually I think that's in 5. Now that I'm looking.
Okay, so it is 5.
But just to flash forward a little bit, just even looking at Dr. Death and the crazy bony teeth, and
that seems like a much more Spawn villain, which is actually one reason I don't really enjoy him, but.
I just think he could have looked a lot cheesier than he looks, and I think he really looks pretty cool.
He does look cool, but he also does kind of look like a Spawn villain, and he has not been my favorite part of this story. But it is kind of interesting seeing. I mean, basically, and this is one thing that I don't like to criticize Snyder, but the one thing I think he's kind of failed to impress upon Bruce is this is the first supervillain he's faced.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And Batman seems fairly unfazed by it.
I mean, but we also know he's been through some stuff.
I mean, he absolutely has. But I kind of would have liked to have this mental monologue of like, what is this? He's never seen a superhuman before. So
I'm sure we'll get some fallout from that in the next issue. I mean, because you've got his failure to stop him. Yeah, he might have beaten him in a fight, but there's still so much more that happened that he had no control over, or that I guess he had control over, but failed to have control over.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, Scott Snyder has. I mean, we are 29 issues in, and it's still. I mean, to me, he's knocking it out of the park almost every single time.
And we've got Snyder and Capullo for at least another 2 years on this book.
Yeah,
good.
They have both said that they pretty much don't want to leave, and they have, I think, at least until issue 50 planned out. So
I hope they make it that far. Speaking of issue 50 and other things related to that, getting into a little Bat news, what you're seeing on your screen right now, if you're watching us live or if you're watching our video feed after the fact, is the new logo for the 75 years of Batman, because this is the Batman's 75th anniversary this year. And I don't know if you guys are seeing that. Miles, yeah. Patrick, what do you think of this logo?
Part of me, I like the idea of kind of juxtaposing the kind of the half of it's the old school, like very big bat, and part of it's the kind of newer, thinner one. The execution just looks kind of ugly. The right side makes it look just lazy almost.
Yeah, I mean, it's got like a shadow effect because it's, I mean, obviously a lot heavier on the one side than the other.
It's the Arkham Asylum, Arkham City Bat logo. First off, that's the logo that they chose, and it just looks lopsided because of the 75 on the right.
I don't see why they couldn't have just put a 75 in the center of the bat.
That, I think, would have also looked weird.
It would have looked weird, but it would have looked less...
75 man. 75.
Well, no, but it would have at least looked almost somewhat symmetrical as far as the bat symbol goes.
I think I think there was something else they could have done that would have been... Now, maybe it'll look different if they put it on a colored background or something like that, because the image that we have is just white. I don't know.
Still, I think it's going to look weird.
Yeah, I agree. It's funky.
Like, we don't even have the whole image. Like, we don't even have the rest of the other wing, And if they keep it like that, it's just going to look odd.
But we're going to be seeing it a lot this year.
Yeah, and as a result, we are, at least this month, getting a lot of Steam sales for basically every Batman game.
Very excited.
If we're recording on March 28th, if you are listening right now or shortly after, you can go and get pretty much any Batman game and Batman DLC on Steam for a lot cheaper than normal, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I think Arkham Origins is $20.
If you don't already have it, I should say.
Yeah, I was about to say I have,
Arkham City, I think this month on PSN or April for PSN will be free.
Yes, Arkham City is going to be free on PlayStation Plus in April. Hopefully, we'll get some more Batman goodness coming out. I mean, it's all a lead into Arkham Knight, which has been announced since our last episode as well.
Yes.
Which let's
caution
good segue.
people against buying. Hold on, first the first couple of Arkham games, because I think I have an extra humble sale.
Oh, nice.
We've actually got a couple of codes for Arkham Asylum and Arkham City that we might be giving away, which we need to figure out how we're going to do that.
Well, yeah, no, I mean,
But,
right
yes.
into it. Give us some topics, some bat topics to talk about on the show, and I'm more than willing to give out some games if you haven't already played them.
But speaking of games, let's talk Arkham Knight.
Okay.
Because Arkham Knight was announced in the meantime between the last time we did stuff with the show, and what you're seeing on our screen is the way that Batman is going to look in Batman Arkham Knight, which is a sequel to Arkham City. It is by the team that made Arkham City. A different team made Arkham Origins.
Yes.
And you can definitely see it takes place 2 years after, or maybe
1
just
year.
a year after Arkham City, which if you have played that game, you know how it ends up. So you got a slightly darker Batman that is coming into things. He definitely looks a lot more armored. He looks a lot fiercer. But he also looks like he's slimmed down a little bit. He doesn't look like the
funny that you mentioned that.
He doesn't look as beefy.
It's funny that you mentioned that because according to the developers, the Batman of Arkham Knight is supposed to be Batman in his absolute peak. So if he slimmed down a little bit, I can kind of see maybe how that might work.
That's interesting, just because I would have assumed that beefier would have been stronger. I don't know. I'm not always a fan of massive armor plating on Batman. I know that from a realistic standpoint it makes sense. I don't need to see armor plates that look like a six-pack. It just doesn't do anything for me from a design-wise thing.
I would absolutely agree with that. I would almost rather him have armor underneath like a gray outfit.
Yeah,
Like
that's
how,
gonna.
Dick Grayson looks in Batman and Robin by Grant Morrison.
Yeah, exactly. He's got more of a very, very, very dark gray instead of just the light gray that we've seen in the previous titles.
Very, very. Yeah, no, it's
a nice Lego movie reference there.
Which I still haven't seen.
Oh, it's so good, dude.
I know. Well, let's move
and
on
Batman
to some other
is actually
pictures.
the main character in that.
Yeah, I know. Next up, you are seeing Batman talking to Oracle. She is not just going to be a faceless voice anymore. She is going to actually have a face in the new game, and her clock tower that she resides in and operates out of is going to be accessible by both Batman and Oracle. So you're going to be able to go and visit Old Barb.
And this is a weird thing because when they were talking to developers, I think it was in an interview today, they were kind of like they emphasized that only Batman and Oracle will be in the clock tower, so that any hopes of seeing other Batman family characters is probably slim chance. However, they did I think mention that Nightwing will somehow be involved in this game.
Yeah, no, explain what you're talking about, Miles. Are you talking about in DLC form or?
They have not mentioned DLC at all, so I'm just talking about
I'm going to assume that the clock tower, it serves the purpose of the Batcave or
From
the
Arkham Origins.
the Batcave from Arkham Origins, or I guess he didn't have a base of operations in Arkham City or Arkham Asylum, did he?
Yeah,
but it would be kind
I
of the
see what you're
home base
saying.
that you're going to return to from time to time, access a Bat computer, directly drop stuff off, something like that. Patrick in the chat room, not our Patrick, but Nerd Off Patrick from the More You Nerd podcast, he says, I hope Arkham Knight doesn't shoehorn in a bunch of B-list villains that I don't care about. I I do hope they do that.
I do
Mostly
too.
because
I love the B list.
the Arkham games have had an over reliance on the Joker. I really don't want the Joker to be in this game. I love
Me
the
either.
Joker. I think the Joker is a fantastic villain, but I think he's a better
But
villain when
not-
he is not
Not
used
fight
all the time.
against. Yeah, I don't know. Like I didn't like. I really didn't like that they invented him up at the end of
Arkham Asylum.
Yeah,
Yeah,
to beat up the Joker.
But
and
that was
shoot
the
him
only
clean.
way you could end that game for a final boss.
Well, and not just that, but like you think when when you're playing Arkham Origins that your villain's gonna be Black Mask, and I mean you know that they've got a voice actor for Joker and Joker's gonna be in the game, but oh surprise, Joker's the main villain of the game. It's just I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, to me, especially in Arkham City, I mean, that last battle was not that fun at all. Like I felt like was it Solomon Grundy was more of a fight than the Joker was.
Yeah, I mean it really was. But jumping back to Arkham Knight, I'm looking at Batman's costume because it's a slightly different angle in this picture, and I'm seeing what look to be his normal arm spikes, but those are batarangs that he can pull out and throw in his arm spikes, which is also kind of neat.
I like that.
I'm gonna say that right there.
Speaking of the title, we have a brand new character, the Arkham Knight.
Well, I'm not there yet. I got pictures in an order.
I
Come
don't
on,
want
Miles.
to get into order now.
Your that shit together.
So we've got the Batmobile that's going to be a playable, drivable thing in this
What is
game.
this abortion? What is going on here?
It looked cooler in the video.
I have no problem with this Batmobile at all.
I think they're trying to evoke the Tumbler from Batman Begins, and
Obviously.
but at the same time make it cool.
Batmobile.
New.
It looks like the Tumbler and Burton's Batmobile had a marriage.
And it's got 9 different headlights that I can see, but I know there are 3 other headlights on it that I can't see from the angle of the picture. So that's 12. That's 12 headlights, which 12 is my lucky number. So I'm kind of okay with that, but it's a little excessive. I don't know. I'll have to see it in action a little more. I don't think that's a very flattering picture of it, but
Pretty excited about the the ability, let alone just like in a side mission or something, just be able to free roam around, driving, doing some Batmobile stuff.
And you're gonna have to because apparently there's no fast travel in this game.
then they'll make you use the Batmobile. That's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, no.
And the city is supposed to be a lot bigger than even the one in
5
Origins,
times bigger than Arkham City, I think.
Cool, good.
which is
It needs to be.
fantastic. Great.
That's like a big island from Grand Theft Auto, maybe. Like a big.
The only downside to that is what we know of the story so far is that Scarecrow has rallied some of the other big villains in Gotham together and is about to release a bunch of fear gas into the city. So the city is still going to be largely uninhabited, which makes sense, but at the same time, I'm a little disappointed in. But that does mean we're also going to get appearances from Two-Face. We're going to get appearances from the Penguin. We're going to get appearances from who else am I missing? Harley is going to be in the game.
And I really hope I hope that they're not the only villains here because I really want to see more of the Rose Gallery. Like, show us some other things, and that's kind of why I'm with Patrick, where I hope some of the B villains get in there. Like, give us someone we haven't seen before.
Well, speaking of someone we haven't seen before, we've got the Arkham Knight, the titular character, the titular villain of the game. As you can see from the picture, if you're watching on video, he is very bat-inspired. He's got his own kind of cowl with pointy bat-like ears. He's a thinner character than Batman, which to me strikes me as younger. He's got some highlights of red on his chest, which looks like armor
He
from
answers to the name
fight
Jason,
that...
I think. I think he answers to the name Jason.
Yeah, exactly.
Miles.
So I'm looking at this character, and I'm seeing highlights of red in the center of his costume, which look like red that has come through under black after being in fights. He is supposedly a brand new character that they are introducing in this game. Bullcrap. I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I really think that it'll most likely be Jason Todd.
It looks, or at least a Jason Todd inspired character.
It looks very much like his design from Battle of the Cow. And I know that the designer said that he tried to use the red as based from the Arkham Asylum guard uniforms.
Well, I'm gonna to jump to the next picture. You can see the Arkham Knight in more of an action shot. You can see grenades on his hip. You can see he's firing a gun,
which is very, very Jason Todd like.
Yes, I mean it's definitely someone that has something to do with Batman. What we don't know yet. To me, if it's not Jason Todd, we have had no impression that we are going to get any Dick Grayson Nightwing or.
I think they mentioned that Nightwing might be in this in some capacity.
I miss that wherever it was. We've also got the Scarecrow and fear toxin being a thing. This could be a Batman Beyond Return of the Joker situation where Tim Drake has been affected and basically controlled by fear toxin, and they're using that against him, or he could be a complete figment of Batman's imagination in the first place.
I want to touch on the Tim Drake thing. As you well know, I'm a huge Tim Drake fan, so obviously I read a lot about the character when he was introduced for Arkham City, and that particular version of Tim Drake, which was not one that I really enjoyed that much, was a little more on edge in his biography, a little more unhinged. He would participate in freelance MMA fights and cage fights in his free time. So
Weird.
To me, it's not completely off the wall for them to use that iteration of Tim Drake as the Arkham Knight either, because
Why
they
use
have.
Tim Drake if you can go with Todd? You know, it doesn't make
I mean,
sense.
I would agree, absolutely, because
Well, the thing about it is they even though they've had Nightwing and Robin in the Arkham Asylum and Arkham City games, I don't recall them referring to them as a particular character. Like I don't remember. I feel like there might be one scene where they call Robin Tim in Arkham City. I don't remember. And so I don't know. They may not count on people knowing who Jason Todd is or knowing who Tim Drake is even. So they're banking on Robin and Nightwing. I also think we lost Miles, which is a little sad.
I was about to say we lost the Miles man. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, everything is conjecture at this point. If it's just silly if they're saying that it's a new character and they're going to just pull the rug out from under people, you know, in the game. They could have done that better. I mean,
but they've done that before. I mean, they have pulled the rug out from under us before when they said that Black Mask was going to be the main character or the main villain of Arkham Origins, and it turned out to be the Joker again. These are people that know how to pull the rug out from under us.
Boo, I don't know about that.
And Miles is back.
Sorry,
Miles, you back?
Yeah.
Basically, we're just talking
You got any more for-
about how we think that the company that makes this game has pulled the rug out from under us a number of times, and that they say it's a brand new character, and they say.
Oh yeah, I don't buy that one bit.
I don't either.
If it's not Jason Todd, I'll be very surprised. I could see how they could make it Tim Drake, but
we were also saying that we don't think that maybe Jason Todd just doesn't have enough cultural cachet to name him.
I don't know. I mean, because everyone knows that a Robin died.
Because they also and
I mean,
maybe you can answer this question for us, Miles.
They would have to tell that story again in this game, you know. If they wanted to do that, they would have to do a lot of storytelling.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the big thing is I don't recall them ever mentioning that the Robin that was in Arkham Asylum and Arkham City was Tim Drake.
No, he was.
I know that we know that, but I don't remember them ever referring to him as anything other than Robin.
Oh no. In story-wise, no. They just call him Robin. But in all of the the biography information in the game, he's Tim Drake.
Okay, so at least something about him has been Tim Drake.
Yes, absolutely.
Patrick in the chat room says maybe the Arkham Knight will turn out to be a robot or cyborg, and I that's certainly possible. Maybe get some toy maker action in here.
Toy maker or doll maker or Tech. Was it Tech Head? Was that the guy's name?
You might even bring in Howard coming in building a Batman style robot because he worked for the Joker at first before Batman took him in. Yeah, that's a deep cut. Who remembers Howard? I do.
I do.
I remember Howard.
You mean Harold?
Harold? Did I call him Howard? Crap.
Yeah,
No,
Harold.
I've lost my bat card.
Who was basically thrown away in the Hush story, which is one of the things about the Hush story I really didn't like.
Well, he was thrown away before that. I think by the time
Yeah,
Hush
but
came
it was like,
around,
I was like, oh yeah, we have this character. Here you go.
by the time Hush came around, people were forgot. Like, oh wait, Harold was here. I can't believe I called him Howard. Now I feel guilty. Anyway.
But so no, I'm really excited about this game. I think it'll be a lot of fun.
Oh, and we should probably mention that it is Xbox One, PlayStation 4, PC. There is no PS3, Xbox 360, or Wii U versions announced. So that's
true.
kind of a big deal when it comes to this stuff, you know.
Absolutely.
So, when is the release date?
Later on this year, September, October. I want to say
October 14th.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's about a year after those consoles came out.
Well, it's also it sticks with the October release date they've been using pretty consistently.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of games come out at that time.
No, but the Batman games in particular have come out in October.
Right.
A long Halloween reference.
Yep.
I'm
Should we
sure
move on
it is.
to the big review that we've been talking about since last month?
Well, we got more Bat news to talk about.
Do we?
We'll blow through some of this stuff.
Oh, right,
just
Gotham.
Because we've got a bunch of announcements about Gotham, the new Fox TV series set in the Batman universe. So we've got some character announcements.
It's looking good. It is
And
looking.
a few plot announcements. So, and I didn't write down any actors' names because I'm an idiot and didn't think about it.
I didn't even bring it up.
Ben McKenzie is Gordon.
Oh, and before we move on from Arkham Knight too much, Patrick in the chat room says, I think Rocksteady said they will be done with Batman after this one. They didn't say they were done with Batman. They said that Arkham Knight is going to be the culmination of the Arkham trilogy of games.
Yeah, it's the final Arkham game.
Yeah.
So it is
I
the
would-
final Arkham game, but that does not mean that it is their final Batman.
However,
Best-selling
that
game
said, Rocksteady
ever.
has not done much outside of Batman, so I can see them doing something else for a while.
I hope they do I think they could do a Suicide Squad game, which they've hinted at in some of the supplemental stuff for Arkham Origins and Arkham Origins Blackgate. I think a Suicide Squad game could be pretty cool. There's
I would
plenty
love
they
a
could
Bat
do.
Family game, like something with like Nightwing and Robin and like everyone else.
Yeah, like something that actually features someone other than, as much as I love Kevin Conroy and as much as I love Batman, there is a big secondary cast of people that like the Catwoman missions in Arkham City, only more of the game.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on, and hopefully, Miles, you've got these names picked out. We're looking at, if you're looking at the live chat, you're looking at your Commissioner Gordon, minus one major thing that is going to bother me throughout the
With
first
the mustache?
half of the season. There is no mustache on this man.
Well, he's still very, very young. I mean, Bruce Wayne's 12, so I mean, I could see him not having a mustache and that being okay.
It's 21 years ago, basically.
So I'm okay with that. Now, by season 2 or 3, he should have a mustache kind of going on.
At least some stubble. Can we get some stubble?
But
I
Ben
would
McKenzie's
like to see something.
yeah, but I like Ben McKenzie a lot. I think he's a really solid actor. I honestly enjoyed his interpretation of Batman when he was Batman in Year One.
I found his interpretation a little dry in Year One.
At first, he was absolutely, but once he got into the role, especially the speech "You have all dined well," that moment was done very, very well to me.
Well written.
Watch that again. That is also the one that features Breaking Bad as Commissioner Gordon.
Bryan Cranston.
Bryan
really
Cranston
gets it out of the park, and I think he's maybe my favorite commish.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
You think he's your favorite commish?
Oh, he did a great job. He
did a good job, but he's
our favorite British actor who portrays Americans in movies.
Yes.
I can't believe that.
Yeah.
Moving on, we've got our first look at Harvey Bullock.
I think he's a perfect choice. He looks exactly like the character.
Yeah.
Donal Logue, who made famous from, he's on Sons of Anarchy right now. He was on his own comedy series for a couple of years back in the day.
Terriers was a great show. If you guys haven't seen it, it's on Netflix.
The Tao of Steve is a movie that I watched at one point and can't remember what. It was The Tao of Steve.
I think it's pronounced Dal, though.
Well, it was spelled with a T.
I know it's spelled with a T, but
anyway, I think he looks great as Harvey Bullock. I think he is. I think he's older than Harvey Bullock should be, but I know this is a new universe, so whatever we're gonna do. I think it's great. He is who I would have wanted to play it, and they're gonna play him for the Harvey Bullock that I want to see, the sort of hardened cop looking for donuts and trying to survive, recovering alcoholic kind of Harvey Bullock, instead of the way that he's kind of portrayed. Like, he wasn't technically in the Dark Knight trilogy, but there was a guy that looked a lot like Harvey Bullock and was a
but he was a crooked cop, so
my Harvey Bullock ain't no crooked cop.
Absolutely.
Moving on, we've got the Penguin.
Ugh.
Look at that beak. Look at
Robin
that beak
Lord
on that guy.
Taylor as Oswald Cobblepot.
I'm okay with it. It does kind of bother me that he's not rotund a little bit, just because every iteration of the Penguin has been. But he does kind of have that kind of bird-like quality in his face.
He's got that penguin nose, and he's got the bow tie already. But again, this is 20 years before the Penguin is the Penguin.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, like, I haven't seen him act in anything, so I mean, for all I know, he could be a fantastic Cobblepot. So I'm not against it at all.
I think it's going to be great. He's going to be a crony in Jada Pinkett Smith's character's gang, which something Fish is her character's name. I don't remember because I think it's kind of a lame name, but whatever.
It is a lame name. It's Fish Mooney.
Fish Mooney. Oh, whatever.
I think throughout this series you will probably see the Penguin rising in that gang.
You're going to see a scene about 3/4 of the way through the series where Penguin starts to take control of Fish Mooney's gang.
Absolutely.
And you're gonna get the line, you know what penguins eat? Fish. And then he kills her or he excommunicates her or something.
Delivered at least a little bit better than that. But there might be an exclamatory like whack 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 right after it.
I hope so, because
mark my words, that penguins eat fish line or penguins dine on fish, that is going to be in the movie.
Absolutely. And I mean, I really hope that he does deliver the Burgess Meredith. Yeah.
I'm the penguin, see? That's my penguin. That's the penguin I like.
Moving on, we have, let's see, we've got Bruce Wayne and Selena Kyle. Aren't they cute? They're so adorable.
David Mazouz and Cameron Bikondova. They got some hard last names.
That is the only smile you're going to get out of that kid in the entire run of the series.
Probably. And I mean,
adorable.
I have no reason to be unhappy with the choices because they're both young.
Yeah.
I have not seen Touch, which the Bruce Wayne actor has been in. But I also feel like they're going to be very minor in this series.
Well, here's what I think is going to happen. These kids are 13.
Yeah.
So you have the capability for between season growth spurts to be able to jump this series ahead by 1 to 2 years, and suddenly you turn it into a Smallville style show where Jim Gordon is no longer
A-okay with that.
Where Jim Gordon is no longer the main character. It becomes Bruce Wayne being the main character as he goes on his missions.
And I would actually really like that. I would love to see more stuff between Selina and Bruce and kind of like see how that relationship develops. I'm fine with that.
No, I'm disagreeing. It would be way too long if that's what they're doing. I don't think they're using these actors for adult.
They said the aim is to have the finale of the series where Batman puts on the Batsuit.
The finale of that series could be at the end of next year. You know,
I mean, it's absolutely true.
We don't know. There could be another Bruce Wayne.
But as far as like they have Smallville aspirations where they want to go on for about 8 years and end it with Batman putting on the cowl.
I think they're putting themselves in the position to either be able to growth spurt these kids up or to be able to recast them if they want to move the show ahead a couple of years.
I don't think they'll do that. I really think that they'll
I think that if this show is not successful, they will absolutely switch the focus from Jim Gordon to Bruce Wayne.
If the show is not successful, they will cancel it.
If it is successful enough but not successful, I feel like this show is a show that is going to get 2 seasons no matter what, just because it's Batman.
I would agree. I would agree on any other network.
Sorry, Patrick. Go ahead and say what you're going to say.
Fox would be the worst producers if they could not get this show to become popular. Like, I mean, I understand that Gotham might not ring true for a lot of people, but I mean, everyone
knows Batman lives in Gotham City.
You're gonna know, that this is a Batman show. But
my big worry about the show is that they're going to bring in too many of Batman's rogues gallery too quickly because they wouldn't have shown up before Batman came along, and they're gonna do that.
The thing is,
Patrick in the chat room says no Halle Berry as Catwoman. Bummer. That's great.
Jada Pinkett Smith, pretty close.
We're gonna get Jada Pinkett Smith. Let's actually get a closer look at this girl as Selina Kyle. Rocking the fishnets already. That is.
Well, she's supposed to be a street tough teenager.
Do you see the convenient location of the buildings behind her in this image?
Yes.
She's got little cat ears. Oh. But yeah, she looks tough. She looks, honestly, from the looks of the way they're doing it, she looks like a girl who is trying to act older than she is and trying to act tougher than she is. But the older thing is a big thing. That is very interesting to me that they're able to pull that off just in still images, and because her face is so young, but everything else about her is screaming that she's trying to be an adult. And
to me, that screams Selina Kyle to me.
Yes,
that's something to me a young Selina Kyle would do.
I absolutely agree. Which makes me again wonder how much are they going to be in this show if the show's really supposed to be about Jim Gordon. They're focusing a lot on Selina Kyle. They're not focusing as much on Bruce Wayne, but yeah.
I think Bruce Wayne's going to become a focus because apparently, according to the interviews I've read, it's Bruce Wayne and Gordon are going to develop a friendship. In the series.
Going back to Snyder's initial run, I really did enjoy the fact that he's Batman in some form the moment the gun is pulled, on his parents. The story where he's investigating the Court of Owls and did they have something to do with his parents' death when he was young? I think those kind of stories can be spun when he's this young and
Absolutely.
they're still Batman stories, you know. I hope they do that with this show, and then tie him in with Gordon and tie him in with Selina, and they have some other kind of adventures. I'm gonna watch it, obviously.
I would love
I
for
just-
them to
I just
have like a
don't want-
young hotshot like prep school, not maybe prep school kid, but like someone who maybe a year or two older than Bruce, who's very, very moral, named Harvey Dent.
What I want is Kevin Smith and Paul Dini's Bloodhaven.
Yeah, that show sounded like the best thing
Right.
I've ever heard of.
Yeah. We're not going to get that, but we're getting little bits of it with Bruce Wayne and Selena Kyle.
I'm
I
very
really don't
I'm
think
very
we
excited
need
about
all
this
of
show.
What'd you say, Patrick?
I don't think you need all of that. I think just a few of the elements here and there is going to whet my beak enough to where I'm definitely staying in it.
Your beak?
Yes. Drew. Oh, bring him back.
As long as they don't turn it into a typical procedural.
I can't.
But see, that's
that
the weird
happening.
thing. I feel like half the people want a typical procedural, but inside Gotham City, but other people don't. I don't really.
Then they can call that Gotham Central.
Yeah, I need to see this show before I
See,
really know what's
I,
going on. I have so much hope for it, but I'm so confused by what the show is actually about.
I would like it to be
Yeah.
the best parts of a lot of Gordon's comics, which is him coming up against the top brass, having to deal with like the corruption and the graft as soon as he moves to Gotham, and then in the background this massive fish mafia organization that
The Fish Mafia. Oh, they're terrible.
I don't know what it's gonna be called, but
I mean, this show's gonna be a tough sell only because you already have one really great DC show out there in Arrow.
yeah, no, but 2 months ago, if you'd asked me, I was like, this is a terrible idea. But they've turned it around on me, and it's just so long as Fox doesn't pull another Firefly, I'm on board. Just give it all of
I
season
will
1.
absolutely watch this show. I can't not watch this show.
I don't think
have
anyone on this
to.
podcast cannot watch this show.
Yeah,
Well,
I want it to be so good so badly, and I just don't know if we're gonna get it.
I loved Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the idea, the concept. The execution didn't keep me coming back week to week. I stopped watching.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the last character that we have revealed.
Oh, another one.
Alfred Pennyworth.
Yes.
You
of a
will-
Earth
Sean
One
Pertwee?
Pennyworth.
You will notice if you're watching the video that there is no pencil thin mustache. There is no thin appearance. He might look a little more like Michael Caine, but he is going to act a lot more like his Earth One and Beware the Batman interpretations, meaning he is an ex-Special Forces agent.
I like that. I think
Ex-British. I hate that interpretation of Alfred.
no,
I hate it. I
it's
hate
gonna be
it. I hate
I'm okay
that
with-
interpretation of Alfred.
I'm okay with it.
Well, it reminds me a lot of 66 Batman. His Alfred was out there. He put on a mask, drove the Batmobile around. He was doing all kinds of stuff.
The main DC continuity Alfred has done that stuff.
Yeah, but if you
He doesn't-
ask
but he-
people
but-
what the majority opinion is of the Alfred, it's like basically a doting aunt,
And
Like
don't
bringing
forget, this
sandwiches.
Alfred is the son of Doctor Who.
kissing his boo-boos.
Yeah, this is John Pertwee, third Doctor?
Third Doctor, yeah.
Third Doctor's son. You can see it in his face a little bit if you're looking at the images. And if you're familiar with what John Pertwee looks like. I hate the Special Forces Alfred. I just
I hate it in Earth 1 because of how it was done. However, in The Dark Knight, it was done very well.
I think it was better in Dark Knight.
in the
'cause
dark.
you have to have a little bit of darkness in that character. If it's all, kind of sunshines and rainbows.
Yeah,
There's
I'm not saying it has to be
not a
like
lot
Beware
to
the
it.
Batman where Alfred's like gun-toting and shooting people,
No.
but having some sort of military experience, I'm okay with.
Uh, he could be a retired actor that went to Gotham City. They could pull that. Or
Well,
he could
that's
be,
how he was in, I think the animated series, wasn't he?
well, I don't remember the animated series having that interpretation, but that's how he is in the New 52 continuity, and that's how he has been for the last several years in the main comic continuity. I mean, it would explain his medical training. It would explain a lot of things. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't like Alfred. I don't like Alfred being a badass. I need Alfred to be the not badass so that it balances Batman out. You
But
know,
I think it's past his point of being badass to where he's looking after this boy. Like even in to segue in the Dark Knight Rises, I mean he even though Bruce Wayne is
the funny thing about this is I do not remember from Batman Begins or The Dark Knight any mention of of Alfred, excuse me, having a special forces past.
oh really because
I'm
the
sure
whole
it's in
Joker,
there.
me and my friends were in the jungle looking for this bandit.
I can't remember it
A
because
rupee
it
the
was.
size of a tangerine.
It's been a while. It's been a while since I've seen
Been
The
a
Dark Knight.
while.
It's been
Some
a,
men
oh
just want to
god.
watch the world bend. And he like took out a a league assassin with like a 2x4. He like smacked him upside the back of his head.
But that's the thing. His portrayal of Alfred is so much less about that I don't remember it even being a part of the series.
Ugh.
And this could very well have the same effect.
Yeah. So in either case, I'm remain cautiously optimistic of
Yeah,
what's going
I'm
on.
very hopeful for it. I would love a great Batman TV show because we were supposed to get one before Smallville.
Oh, that's actually true because Arrow in Smallville was supposed to be Bruce Wayne, but Warner Brothers wouldn't let it happen because they thought people would get confused.
Yeah, but Arrow is a
We're
fantastic
gonna get
show,
confused.
so-
Batman's over here, but Batman's in the movie theater too, guys.
How is it two different Batman?
Yeah, they didn't seem too confused when there was Smallville on TV and that abortion Superman Returns in the theaters.
Patrick in the chat room says non-badass Alfred is still pretty badass. Exactly. Alfred is a badass in his own way.
I don't
True.
disagree. I'm just saying
That's
that a Alfred with military background is not necessarily a horrible thing.
I know it's not necessarily a horrible thing, but the most prevalent thing that I can remember it is in Earth One,
True.
and Earth One was just not very.
Well, see, but Earth One was
True.
terrible anyway.
Using your own logic against you, you like him balancing out Batman by being a little softer. Well, in the show, it's going to be Bruce Wayne that's going to be a little softer, so you need a hardened Alfred. Logic. Moving on.
Moving on. So we said last episode, more than a month ago, we've promised to do this once a month, but time gets away from us, guys. I'm sorry, and wives and fiancés prevent us from being able to get together as often as we would like. We said we were going to watch The Dark Knight Rises because I had some very particular things to say about The Dark Knight Rises on the last episode, and I was sort of taken to task to defend myself after another watching. So let's get into it. Dark Knight Rises. We are going to be spoiling The Dark Knight Rises. I know it's a movie that's more than a year old at this point, almost 2 years old.
Yeah.
We're going to spoil it, so if you have not seen it, be warned that for the rest of this episode, they going to be some spoilers.
Yep.
So The Dark Knight Rises, the third in Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy, involves Bane coming to town to be Gotham's reckoning, and basically wrecking stuff, and Batman having to come out of retirement to beat the bad guys.
So I know your biggest problem with this is that the idea that Batman would ever quit.
Once again, it's he had a mission to do, and he accomplished the mission. So
I mean, I know I agree with you, like because the thing about the Nolan Batmans is his Batman is not necessarily our Batman.
Yeah, he's a very different Batman.
He is.
That's my problem with it.
I understand that, but like, and I have voiced this on the Obscure Reference about a year ago of my problems with the Batman Begins Dark Knight Batman, where I think he's kind of stupid. He's of average intelligence, whereas Batman's supposed to be the world's greatest detective.
Yeah. Though Dark Knight Rises has some things that say the opposite.
And once again, my counter rebuttal to that is it's really not interesting to watch someone do detective work.
No, it is not.
Really, because Sherlock would be a
movie screen.
But you're not seeing Sherlock.
The Sherlock movies were action-packed movies. They were not, actual detective.
And even in the Sherlock show, you're not seeing him do the detective work. You're seeing him just know the answer.
But you're also seeing him deducing. And
you're seeing him explain to Watson what he figured out 20 minutes before you started watching.
But you also have a lot of visual cues of him like processing information.
It's very different from reading a comic book or reading a Sherlock Holmes story, where you can kind of, at the same pace as the story goes along, try and figure things out yourself. You can't do that in film, except for if it's an actual mystery movie, and that's like the entirety of the film, which they're not going to do with a Batman film ever.
No, they're not. They're not going to do that. It is more interesting to see him punching dudes in the throat than it is.
I know, and I absolutely understand that. The one thing about the Nolan series I dislike is that I feel like he is at average intelligence and not above average intelligence.
There are two things in Dark Knight Rises that go against that particular feeling. One is that after Selina Kyle breaks into the manor and breaks into the safe to steal his mother's pearls, you don't see it happen, but you see the results of everything that happened.
Yeah.
When Alfred goes down into the Batcave and you see Bruce on the computer and he's already got everything figured out because we didn't see him do the work, but now he's just showing the work that he did. And suddenly you're like, okay, this is the most detective work that Batman has done in all three movies.
Well, he's had a lot of time on his hands. Maybe he's been reading some books.
Yeah. But you also have the implication that the autopilot in the Bat flying vehicle, which I hate was called the Bat. It could have been called the Batwing or the Batplane or whatever.
I would agree with that.
I understand why it's called the Bat. I just think it's a cheap name. I don't think it's a very interesting name for that thing. Anyway, the only person that is smart enough to figure out the autopilot problem is Bruce Wayne. Lucius Fox can't figure it out.
Like the take place over a long period of time from when
but
again,
when you have a Bruce Wayne who can't figure out things prior to that, and then all of a sudden he can fix the autopilot in a experimental plane.
Yeah. I think that Christian Bale's Batman voice goes a little crazy in this movie.
I've never minded the Batman voice.
I like a Batman voice, but I think it takes a little too far.
But to me, it makes sense.
It does. You should have a different voice that you put on. I mean, that's a Kevin Conroy move. Kevin Conroy is the first person that I can remember actually doing it. I mean, I'm sure it was referenced in comics before that. Michael Keaton didn't do it much, though. But
yeah, he did. I want you to tell your friends about me. I'm Batman.
But anyway, I still have problems with Dark Knight Rises, but
did you like it more this time around?
It is an incredibly enjoyable movie. It is so enjoyable to watch Batman come out of retirement, to watch him get back into the swing of things, to watch him punch turkeys in the face, to watch him
punching turkeys,
to do so much of this stuff.
I'm not Batman. I'm a turkey puncher.
Wait.
And my favorite.
Was this the second time you had seen this movie?
This is only the second time I've seen it.
Because that's kind of why I wanted to do this challenge of sorts, because you seem to have enjoyed it more as just a fun film.
Well, so Patrick in the chat room, just to go back to our detective conversation, he says he did some detective stuff in The Dark Knight when he reconstructs the bullets and stuff. I would say the Bat computer did more detective work than Bruce Wayne did in that movie.
I don't know. It's
But anyway, going back to Dark Knight Rises, it is. I forgot how interesting and fun Bane is for the first.
He really is a fun character
for the first 4/5 of the movie. There is a point that the movie takes a turn, and that Bane is no longer interesting and is super lame. And that point is sadly the reveal of Talia. Talia is a great character, is a fantastic character in the comics. She is artificially built up in this movie.
Why do you say she's artificially built up?
Because she is a brand new character that has not been referenced in any of the previous movies.
Why would she have been referenced?
She would have already been in Gotham at the time of The Dark Knight.
Why?
Maybe not.
She would have.
She was out of the League of Shadows. The Dark Knight happened not even a year after Batman Begins.
I think that The Dark Knight Rises is. I really enjoyed the movie. Don't get me wrong. It is super fun to watch. It is super fun. I was cheering. I was like, yeah, go get him. You know, do you think that money gives you power? Like, Bane is so cool until Talia comes in and makes Bane just the lamest of dudes. And then he gets...
I don't think she does that at all.
And then he gets murked immediately by Selena Kyle.
I love Anne Hathaway in this movie.
See, I liked her the first time I saw it. I like her less this time.
Oh, see, I thought, one, her Selena Kyle was great, but two, she's just a phenomenal, electrifying actress in this movie.
Really like Anne Hathaway. I think there were certain scenes in this film where she is either phoning it in or laying it on a little thick. But that didn't bother me the first time. It might be that I'm just looking for stuff this time. But again,
here's the one, and like, because I love this movie. The one criticism I have, and it's so petty, is that, and I can see why it works, is when Selena Kyle sneaks off on Batman, and he's like, so that's what that feels like.
He doesn't say, so that's what that feels like, Miles. Let's be honest. He says, so that's what that feels like.
Best part of it.
I get that was a fun joke, and I enjoyed it when I saw it, and I still enjoy it, but I don't like the fact that Selena can sneak up on him. I don't know why that bothers me.
Okay, well, once again, you're putting, the comics.
I understand exactly what I'm doing, and it doesn't bother me as far as the film goes. I still think it's a fun moment.
It's a fun moment. It's a fan service moment. It's funny.
Batman is not a fun character if there are no surprises for him. Like, if he is the super god that, some writers will, put him out to be, you're not going to want to watch that character because there's no element of, like, is he going to live? Is he going to save this person's life?
That's where I think that the Bane influence on the film is very, very good for, like I said, 4/5 of the movie. I think Bane is fantastic. In fact, Patrick in the chat room says, I said a few weeks ago on the Obscure Show that I like The Dark Knight Rises over The Dark Knight. My main reason is that I like what Bane did over what the Joker did. The struggle Batman faced against Bane was more intense.
I would absolutely agree with that.
That is absolutely true. Bane is in the comics and in the movie, is a tremendous villain for Batman because he is not stupid. He is of the intellectual level of Batman. He is...
Yeah. Joker stupid?
Well,
no, but the Joker is all he cares about is chaos. He's not really. He doesn't have a plan. He doesn't have a.
No, that's wrong. That's what he says.
No, it's not. He even says he doesn't have a plan.
He says it. That doesn't mean that's true.
But I love the Joker and I love Heath Ledger's version of the Joker. But I think that the point of what the Joker's trying to do and the point of what Bane was trying to do are different. The Joker,
Yes, absolutely.
The Joker is absolutely going after Batman specifically and doing things to test Batman specifically when it comes to creating chaos around him.
Because he sees Batman as a champion of order.
But he's also not going to destroy the city because he wants the opportunity to do it again.
Right.
Bane is on a practically religious crusade to fulfill the wishes of the League of Shadows, which is really hard to say the League of Shadows, not the League of Assassins.
I agree.
The League of Shadows and destroy Gotham completely.
Well, that's what you think, but he's really being puppeted, and they're trying to destroy Batman before they destroy the city.
But Talia is still going to destroy the city. I think on some level, Bane knows that Talia is going to destroy. Or I think on some level Bane knows. He has to know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I didn't mind, like, as soon, because I mean, a lot of my friends and I had been saying for a while before the film came out that Marion Cotillard should be Talia al Ghul, and when she was announced as a character, even when she was announced as Marion Tate, I was like, no, she's Talia. I know she's Talia.
Everyone knew she was Talia.
And
until you're a third of the way or 2/3 of the way through the movie, and you forget that Talia is an option, and then she outs herself as Talia, and it's like, oh yeah, Talia, that's awesome.
But I thought that was my exact reaction. I was like, oh, it's Talia, that's awesome. I had no qualms with it whatsoever.
I mean, she was rumored to be Talia for so long, and in the midst of the movie, you're so wrapped up in everything else that's going on that you forget that she's going to be Talia.
So let's talk about...
Patrick in the chat room also says, Joker is still better than Bane, but in the Nolan movies, I think Bane was more a worthy opponent and upped the stakes. I agree on some levels.
I do too, and I would love
Joker
to
is
have
never going
seen...
to take Batman in a fight.
Right.
If Joker and Batman, no matter what the interpretation, Batman is always going to win that physical altercation. It is the consistent other stuff that Joker does that is always going to get to Batman.
Here's my thing. I would have loved to have had Heath Ledger live anyway, but had he been alive, I think it would have been very fascinating to see what the Joker would have done in Bane's Gotham, because I feel like he would have confronted Bane. I feel like he would have done something against Bane.
And seeing this movie again, Joker would have been if they had done the movie the same way, but Heath Ledger was still alive, which I don't think they would have done. He would have been the judge in that courtroom instead of.
I don't think so. I don't think so at all.
Oh, you're just so wrong, Miles. You're so wrong.
He is no one's stooge, and again, he has a vendetta against plans.
You're talking about. You're just.
The Joker would have been messing around, because I can't remember if we're on a PG podcast or not.
We are in a PG podcast, and Patrick's already messed that up this episode.
Yeah,
I don't care.
But he would have been he may not have been siding with Batman, but he would have been messing with Bane. I absolutely guarantee it.
Or he would have just been reveling in the chaos of what was going on and sending people across the ice.
So I do want to ask you this, Drew, since you were the biggest naysayer for the Dark Knight Rises that on the podcast. How do you feel about Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character?
I still don't think he's that interesting or compelling, or that Joseph Gordon-Levitt does a particularly good job acting in the movie.
Really?
I think that I like Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I think Joseph Gordon-Levitt is good in most things. I think he, in the same way that Anne Hathaway turns it on a little too much in this movie as Selena Kyle, I think he turns it on a little too much in this movie.
I can't agree with that at all. I love him in this movie.
I think he's got some real moments. I think he's got some really fantastic moments. He's got the beginnings of a good Batman character when he accidentally kills those two dudes, even though he's so quick to draw his gun, he's not prepared for the consequences. I think that's a good scene. I think at the end when he is sort of confronting those dudes on the bridge, I think that's a good scene. Mm-hmm. But I also think for a large part of the movie, he's very Mark Wahlberg.
Can we?
I disagree.
Mark
But at the same time, a lot of people have
Painful.
told me that the reason I like him is people. Cause I remember being in the theater and people texting me. It's like, so how do you feel that Tim Drake's in the movie?
He's not just Tim Drake though. He's
He's Tim Drake and Dick Grayson. Absolutely.
He's Tim Drake and he's Jason Todd.
I
He
don't
grew
think
up
so.
in a boys' home. His mom was killed, and his dad was murdered by mafiosos. He is
he's
part
a
Dick
Jason
Grayson has
Todd.
nothing to do with that.
He is more Jason Todd than he is Dick Grayson.
Like everything in this movie series, it's all kind of a pastiche. So arguing about what percentage of what, it doesn't really matter.
But
The
The fact that he figures out Bruce Wayne is Batman makes him more Tim Drake.
Whatever. Just.
But still, I mean, I love Joseph Gordon-Levitt as an actor anyway. I always have, but I really enjoyed his character a lot. The one character I felt they really kind of shied back on, and it's a shame, is Gordon.
Gordon has more screen time than Alfred. Alfred leaves halfway
Alfred.
through the movie.
Yeah,
Alfred does leave,
really
but Gordon doesn't do a whole lot either. He's on a bed the entire time.
He's not on the bed the entire time. He's in the bed for the first third, and then as soon as crap goes down and Bane takes over the city, he's out there among the people,
Doing what?
leading the remaining troops. He's tagging. He's tracking the bomb on the trucks and knowing that there's 3 trucks. He does more in that movie than Alfred does. Alfred whines that Bruce is getting back into things, and
I don't mind that Alfred did what he did. I thought it made sense for the character.
But again, I really enjoy watching The Dark Knight Rises. I don't think it's better than The Dark Knight. I think The Dark Knight is a better film.
Can we actually talk about ratings? Because I would like to know where it sits, just in all Bat films with you guys. Like, what scale of 1 to 10 would you rate Rises?
I give it 7.5.
No, I think he's asking as far as where would you rate it in the Batman films that have been released.
No,
Oh.
I like the 1 to 10 scale too. I mean, what is your favorite Bat film? Like, what would you rate is your favorite Bat film a 10?
I mean, I don't know. I'll put them in order if I can think about it. I like The Dark Knight. I like. I'm gonna put Begins above. The 66 Batman movie. I'm gonna put that up there in the top 3. I'm putting that in top 3.
Wow.
You're
By
just
the way,
wrong.
But I grew up with it, so I've got more.
I did
nostalgia about it.
too.
I
But
grew
I
up with
think
a lot of stuff I left behind, including the movies between the Michael Crichton films and the Nolan films.
Michael Crichton film.
Crichton, Jurassic Park. You mean Tim
Guys,
Burton?
I'm so tired. We have to wrap this episode up.
By the way, speaking of the 60 Batman series, we need to say a very solemn praise to Lorenzo Semple Jr., who was the creator of the Batman series, who died today.
Yes.
Pretty sad.
He was 91 yesterday, the day after his birthday.
Let's say he's got to be pretty darn old.
Sir, I give you a bat.
Absolutely. I as cheesy as it was, I love the '60s Batman show.
I grew up watching it. It's my first.
I did too.
It's my first introduction to Batman. If it wasn't for that show, I would not be a Batman fan. I remember.
No one would be a Batman fan because that brought the comic book back into popularity.
It
It
did.
would have probably died out.
It then also killed it, but then they brought it back again.
Yeah. I also want to say, Drew, I really appreciate that you watched The Dark Knight with a new lens. Like, I like hearing the fact that you liked it more.
Well, I mean, the thing is, I remember liking the movie at the time. I remember loving the movie at the time. This is a fantastic movie. In hindsight, it's not my Batman, and it doesn't fulfill the promise of the Dark Knight, which to me is not only the greatest Batman movie, but the greatest superhero movie that's been made. It doesn't.
Well,
It
was
doesn't
never
fulfill
gonna,
that promise.
It was never going to top it. Like there's no topping
It's
it.
not. It's not a matter of topping it. It's a matter of the promise of the Dark Knight is that, and I know I said this on the last episode. I'm going to say it again. When you have a symbol in that city like Batman is that rises above the police, rises above the normal symbols of justice in that society, you're going to have a villain that does the same thing. And you have the Joker, and you have a whole other number of Arkham inmates that escape. But after Dark Knight, yes, the Joker is beaten, but he's not dead. He's incarcerated, I'm sure.
He's in Arkham Asylum.
It takes 8 years for something else to happen. That's not the promise of the Batman universe. And I think that if Heath Ledger hadn't died, we would have had a very, very different Dark Knight Rises.
I do absolutely agree with that. I think had Heath Ledger not died, he would have had some significant part of the
and you know what? I probably would have hated that too.
If
Probably
some
would've-
nuts were candy and nuts,
Then we'd all have a Merry Christmas. I know.
a Merry Batmas. Jingle bells, Batman smells.
I very much enjoy this movie, and again, I appreciate that you gave the movie a second shot, Drew, and I'm glad that you liked it
Bane
more.
is still super cool. I've been ever since I watched the movie a few days ago. I've had the Bane voice in my head saying things to myself.
Have you, brother?
Have you, brother?
My favorite is seeing that scene, a couple of scenes redone with Meatwad doing Bane's voice. That one's my favorite.
Patrick in the chat room says he has never seen any 60s Batman episodes or movie. Well, Patrick, I have some news for you. I think we can.
For that.
There's a reason you haven't seen any of the TV series. It's that the rights were owned by 2 different companies that couldn't come to terms on releasing it on DVD. But it is getting a Blu-ray release this year.
So excited about that.
You could find it on a couple of TV stations. If you use an antenna like I do, there was a TV show called Retro, a TV channel, I should say, called Retro Network or whatever it's called. They will play Batman from time to time, but not often enough for me to be able to catch it, which kind of sucks. But the movie has been available. It is currently available on Netflix.
Yeah, it's on. I think it's on DVD and Blu-ray.
It's on DVD, Blu-ray. It's on Netflix. I own it as well. Just know that you are going to get some campy nonsense.
Oh yeah, it is absolutely campy.
It is so fun.
Yeah, it is such a fun time.
And you may not have seen any of the episodes of the show itself, but you have seen its influence on other things.
Yeah,
I guarantee it. So
Matsui.
The Batusi. Batusi.
I very much want to go back and revisit those. I think they're going to hold up for what they are.
Yeah, I want to. I need to see if the pre-order's on Amazon yet. I want it, and I want to show them to my son, just because I don't know. He likes Batman or Bat. He pointed at my shirt today. If you can see at the bottom, I'm wearing my Batman shirt because It's a Batman episode night. Whatever, I wore it last episode. Whatever.
I'm wearing.
I'm excited.
My Spider-
Well, I appreciate that you gave the movie another look. Next month or next episode.
Yeah, we would have talked about it today, but we ran out of time.
Yeah, one of our things, we want to go back and look at retro Batman stories. And so we're going to look at Batman Year 2, the follow-up to, or the attempted follow-up to Batman Year 1 by Frank Miller.
Thank you for saying attempted, because they certainly attempted something.
Yes, they did. So I very much hope that you guys will check in next month or next episode for when we talk about that.
Yes, and if you would like to get in touch with us in the meantime, you can check us out, of course, if you're listening to the podcast feed, youtube.com/late night show. That's KNIGHT, because, of course, we're talking about the Dark Knight.
Get it?
You can email us at lkwbshow@gmail.com, late night with Batman, lkwbshow@gmail.com with any feedback that you have from there. You can also check out themoreyounerd.com, where we do our main show, and you can, of course, get in touch with us there as well. So with that said, join us next month. Hopefully we're going to start doing stuff a little sooner, but all it takes is getting more viewers and listeners. So the more people that watch this episode, the more reason we have to come back and join you live sooner rather than later.
Different bat time, same bat channel.
Yeah. And we will see you next time, guys.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. See you in the morning. We need a good sign off.
Bat out.
Sleep well.
Stay a while and listen. That's lame. I can't end the show on that. Good night.